The war between humans and the Zarelian Empire had lasted for 20 years. Starships exploded in deep space. Soldiers gave their lives on strange planets. And peace had always seemed like a dream until now, on the edge of a quiet star system. A peace treaty was being signed on a massive space station called Unity 1. It floated like a silver island in the stars, far away from both human and Zarelian territory. This was a neutral place, and for the first time in decades, both species gathered without weapons drawn. Sergeant Nathan Cole, a tall, battle-hardened human soldier, stood among the Earth's representatives. His armor was polished, his back straight, and a fresh scar ran along his cheek. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't a diplomat. He had been invited to stand here because of his bravery during the final battle. He had saved both human and Zarelian lives when others would have fled. He didn't expect attention, just wanted peace to last. Across the wide silver hall stood the Zarelian stall, strong and with glowing blue skin. Their armor shimmered with strange lights, and their golden eyes watched every human with silent judgment. At the center of the Zarelian group stood King Victor, a giant among giants. His voice could shake walls, and his presence could silence a room.
Ow.
But today, it was not he who would speak first. It was his daughter, Princess Cyrexia. Cyrexia stepped forward. Her long silver robes flowed like mist, and her crown shimmered like stars. Her face was calm but proud. Her eyes, bright gold with silver rims, looked over the crowd of humans. Then she spoke. As is tradition of the Zarelian royal house, she said in perfect English, "I must choose a mate from the warriors of the enemy to honor peace with unity." The room went still. Murmurs broke out among the humans. Some looked confused, others alarmed. "What does she mean, choose a mate?" someone whispered. Nathan didn't speak. He stood still, unsure what this was about. Cyrexia raised her hand. The room fell silent again. "We do not marry out of love alone," she explained. "We choose someone who has shown great courage, honor, and strength, even in war. That is how we respect our enemies and turn them into allies." Nathan shifted uncomfortably. He felt something in the air, a strange feeling, a quiet weight. Then Cyrexia turned her eyes directly at him. "You," she said. Nathan blinked. Everyone turned toward him. He looked behind him, then back at her. Double quotes. "Yes, you," she repeated, stepping closer. "Sergeant Nathan Cole, you risked your life to save both sides. You fought with honor. You did not take revenge when you had the chance. You are. And that is why I ask." She paused. Even the stars outside the window seemed to wait. "Human, will you be my mate?" The silence after her words was louder than any battlefield. Nathan's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Behind him, the human ambassador cleared his throat. Princess Cyrexia, may we speak in private?" But Cyrexia shook her head. "This is our way. The offer must be public, and the answer must come from the heart." Nathan finally found his voice. "Why me?" he asked. "You are not the strongest," she said honestly, "but you are brave. You are not the tallest, but you stand tall. And most important, you are kind, even in war." He looked around. Half the humans were staring at him. The other half were trying not to. "I'm just a soldier," he said, "not a prince, not even close." "Then you are exactly what my people need," she replied. The human side broke into quiet discussions. Diplomats whispered. Generals frowned. This wasn't part of the treaty. No one had planned for this. Nathan felt a gentle touch on his shoulder. It was Commander Lin, his old superior officer. She leaned in. "You don't have to say yes," she whispered. "But think carefully. If you agree, it could strengthen peace. If you say no, it might offend them." Nathan looked at Cyrexia. Again, she didn't smile. She didn't try to charm him. She only stood tall, like a warrior offering a handshake, not a wedding ring. "I need time to think," Nathan said carefully. Cyrexia nodded. "You have until the bonding trials begin tomorrow. Then you must choose." Back to her father, who nodded slowly. The king said nothing, but his golden eyes followed Nathan closely. The ceremony ended soon after. But the real event, the strange proposal, was all anyone could talk about as Nathan returned to his quarters. Porters already waited at the door. Officers were calling him. People from both sides wanted to know his answer. He sat on the edge of his bed and stared out the window at the stars. Mate to an alien princess? It sounded crazy. And yet, deep inside, something told him that this was not just about marriage or peace treaties. It was about something far greater. A bridge between two worlds, maybe. This was the real mission all along, and Nathan Cole had just been chosen to carry it. Sergeant Nathan Cole did not sleep that night. He sat on the edge of his bed in the quiet space station, looking out into the stars. The galaxy felt too big, too silent. His room, usually a place of rest, felt like a prison. How could anyone sleep after being chosen by an alien princess? His communicator beeped. A message flashed. Report to Diplomatic Briefing Room 3 at 0700 hours. Mandatory. Commander Lin, Ethan sighed. No rest, no peace, only more questions. At 0700 sharp, Nathan entered the room. A large screen showed the symbol of the Terran, Coalition Earth's United Government. Around the table sat officers, diplomats, and one tired-looking psychologist. Commander Lin stood at the front. She gave Nathan a small nod as he sat. Sergeant Cole, she began, you've been put in a very unusual position. Nathan raised an eyebrow. You think? Some people chuckled. Even the psychologist smiled. Commander Lin continued. What Princess Sirexia did is part of an ancient Zarelian custom. When royal blood offers a mate bond, it is more than marriage, it's a political alliance, a sign of deep trust. Nathan frowned. If I accept, I become part of their royal family. Technically, yes, said the ambassador. More importantly, it makes Earth and Zarelia permanent allies, connected by blood. And if I say no, the room went quiet. After a pause, Lin said carefully, it won't break the treaty, but it may hurt trust. Zarelians take honor very seriously. Refusing could be seen as a personal insult. Nathan leaned back in his chair. So, no pressure. You do have a choice, Lin said. But be aware, Princess Sirexia has already begun preparing the bonding trials. Nathan blinked. Bonding what? The diplomat spoke next. Zarelian mating process is not simple. Before any bond is accepted, the chosen one must go through a series of tests, physical, mental, and cultural. If you fail, the bond is denied. If you pass, the final choice is yours. So I have. To earn the right to say yes or no? Exactly, Lin said. And they begin today. An hour later, Nathan stood inside the hangar of the Zarelian ship, Varkarith, a massive alien vessel shaped like a silver bird. He wore a special diplomatic armor light, respectful and without weapons. A Zarelian guide named Thalek met him. He was tall, with glowing silver skin and glowing blue eyes. Unlike most warriors, Thalek wore soft robes instead of armor. Human Cole, he greeted, his voice calm and deep. Welcome to the House of Trials. Nathan followed Thalek through glowing halls with strange patterns on the walls. Alien statues lined the paths, their eyes made of crystal. Soon, they reached a large chamber. Waiting, there were 5 tall Zarelians, all wearing ceremonial armor. At the center stood Princess Sirexia. Nathan stopped. So, it's the test. Sirexia nodded. It is the first of many. Today we test endurance and focus. She pointed to a round platform in the middle of the room. You will enter the trial of motion. You must remain balanced while the platform moves, spins, and shifts. Lose balance 3 times, and you fail. Nathan looked at the platform. Didn't look dangerous, but he had learned long ago that looks could lie. All right, he said. Let's do it. The platform moved like it was alive. It tilted, rolled, twisted. At first, Nathan stayed. On his feet, using his soldier's balance and reflexes, but the motion became faster, sharper, unpredictable. He slipped once. The platform reset. A small beep echoed. One failure. He gritted his teeth. He would not fall again. He focused harder. Remembered his training. The spinning made his head swim. But he used breathing techniques he had learned in zero-gravity combat. He slipped again, but this time caught himself. The platform continued for 5 more minutes. By the end, his legs burned, and his mind felt heavy, but he remained standing. The test ended. The platform stopped, and the watchers clapped politely. Sirexia stepped forward. You did better than most. Few non-Zarelians complete the trial. Nathan breathed hard. That was just the first test. She gave a small smile. Yes, and the easiest. After a short rest, Nathan was taken to a different chamber. One was filled with floating crystals that hummed with soft energy. Trial 2, Thalik explained. Mental clarity. Each crystal shows you a different image, a different emotion. You must walk through them without reacting. Reacting how? Nathan asked. Emotionally. Nathan entered the crystal field. Each one glowed with a different color. As he passed the first crystal, he saw an image of Earth burning in war. A deep sadness hit him, but he walked on. The next crystal showed his old squad, one friend who died beside him. He felt the pain again. Still he walked forward, then a crystal showed Sirexia smiling at him. He didn't know why, but his heart skipped. He quickly calmed himself and walked on. By the end, sweat covered his face, but he had not broken. Not once. You passed, Thalik said. The princess will be informed. Later that evening, Nathan sat alone in the garden chamber. Of the ship, strange glowing plants filled the room. The air smelled sweet and warm. Princess Sirexia entered quietly. She sat beside him without speaking for a moment. You surprise me? She said finally. How so? He asked. You do not try to impress. You do not act like a hero. Yet you keep pushing forward. Nathan shrugged. I didn't ask for this, but if I'm going to be tested, I'll give it my best. She turned to him. You may not believe it yet, but you and I are not so different. Nathan looked at her golden eyes. Not sure anyone will believe that. Then we'll have to prove them wrong, she said softly. They sat in silence again. For the first time since the war ended, Nathan didn't feel like a soldier. He felt like something more, not a prince, not a mate.
Not yet.
But maybe just. Maybe a bridge between worlds? The next morning, the Zarelian warship Varkarith hovered above a quiet moon hidden deep in neutral space. The ship prepared for the next bonding trial, one that would test more than skill or thought. This would test heart, strength, and survival. Sergeant Nathan Cole woke early. He stood by the window in his room, watching stars slowly move past. His legs still ached from yesterday's test, but his mind was sharper now. He had made it through. 2 trials already, but he knew the hardest ones were coming. A soft knock came at his door. It was Thalik, the Zarelian guide. Calm as always, he nodded respectfully. Good morning, human Cole. Today's trial is physical. Very few non-Zarelians complete it. Some quit. A few are injured. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Well, that's encouraging. Thalik gave a small smile. The trial of fire and flesh is part of our warrior path. It is not meant to destroy. It is meant to reveal. Reveal what? The soul behind the strength. A short while later, Nathan stood in the combat arena, deep inside the ship. The chamber was round, tall, and open to the sky above. A glowing energy shield held air inside. The walls were covered in ancient carvings of warriors and beasts. It was a sacred place. Sirexia stood in the royal seat above the arena. She wore light armor today, silver with blue trim. She looked more like a warrior than a princess. A deep voice spoke through a speaker. Sergeant Nathan Cole, you now face the trial of fire and flesh. Your opponent will not show mercy. You must survive for 5 minutes and never fall. Gate opened. From the shadows stepped a Zarelian warrior, twice Nathan's size, covered in dark armor. His name was General Vorthena, respected war hero and known enemy of humans during the war. Nathan had heard of him. This wasn't just a test. It was a challenge from someone who didn't want the princess to bond with a human. You chose a real friendly one, Nathan muttered to himself. The gong sounded. The trial began. Vorthon charged forward like a mountain. In motion, Nathan rolled to the side, barely dodging a powerful strike. The Zarelian's weapon was a curved staff made of glowing metal. It hummed with energy. Nathan had only light armor in his bare hands. He moved fast, using speed instead. Of strength, he ducked, blocked, and rolled again. Every hit from Vorthon felt like thunder even when it missed. 1 minute passed. Nathan's breath grew heavy. He knew he couldn't win a full fight. He just had to survive. Think like a soldier. Keep moving. Don't get caught. But Vorthon was clever. He feinted left, then swept Nathan's legs. The human crashed onto the floor, gasping. Pain shot through his side. The gong rang once. 1 fall, 2 more, and the trial would end in failure. Nathan got up slowly. His ribs hurt, but he didn't back down. Vorthon nodded once, then attacked. Again, this time, Nathan used the arena itself, jumping off a wall, flipping over a low obstacle, making Vorthon miss by inches. 2 minutes left. Nathan's muscles screamed, sweat poured down his face. He was slowing. Vorthon smiled just a little, then swung again. Nathan blocked with both arms. The force sent him flying. He hit the ground. Hard. The gong rang again. 2 falls. Cyrexia watched closely. Her eyes didn't show fear but concern. Thalic whispered to her, "He has 1 chance left." Nathan rose again. His legs shook. But he lifted his hands. No surrender, he whispered to himself. Not now. The last minute began. Vorthon charged again, but this time Nathan didn't dodge. He stepped forward and grabbed the warrior's staff. Using the force of the swing, pulled himself closer and slammed his elbow into Vorthon's chest. It didn't hurt the Zarelian, but it surprised him. Nathan let go, spun around and dropped low. Vorthon missed again. The crowd above started. Murmuring, human wasn't giving up. The final gong rang. Time was up. Nathan collapsed to his knees, but he was still standing. Later, Nathan sat in the healing chamber. Strange Zarelian light flowed over his bruises. Cuts closed slowly. Pain faded. Cyrexia entered alone. "You passed," she said. "Barely," Nathan replied, wincing. "Better than most." "General Vorthon does not hold back. You earned his respect." Nathan looked surprised. "Really? I thought he wanted to break my spine." "He did. But you made him miss. That counts more in our culture than landing a hit." Nathan chuckled. "Good to know." Cyrexia stepped closer. Her voice became softer. "There's another reason you were tested today." "What reason?" "Many Zarelians still doubt this bond. They think humans are weak, wild, unworthy. I needed you to show them otherwise." Nathan looked at her. "And did I?" She nodded. "Today you did." There was silence for a moment. Then Nathan spoke again. "Why me, really? Could have chosen anyone. Why a simple soldier?" Cyrexia looked at the stars through the chamber window. "Because during the war, I saw videos. I watched you carry wounded enemies to safety. Saw how you refused to fire on civilians, even under pressure. You fought like a warrior but thought like a leader." Nathan shook his head. "I'm no leader. I just tried to do what felt right." "That is exactly what makes you different," she said. Then she turned to leave. Before going, she looked back. "Rest well, human Cole. Tomorrow is the trial of unity. It is different." "How different?" he asked. But she only smiled. "You'll see." As the chamber lights dimmed, Nathan leaned back and let the healing lights do their work. His body ached, but inside, something felt stronger than before. He had survived. He had earned their respect, Evan, just a little, and he was starting to understand. This was more than a political bond. It was the beginning of something much bigger, a test not just of strength, but of what it means to be human. The next day on the Zarelian ship, Farcareth began quietly. But something felt different. Sergeant Nathan Cole woke up with fewer aches than expected. The healing chamber had done its job. Still, he knew the hardest trials were not always about the body. Today he would face the trial of unity, and he had no idea what that meant. After a small meal, his guide Thalik entered, dressed in ceremonial robes this time. "Good morning, human Cole," Thalik said with a small bow. Nathan nodded. "Let me guess. Another test?" "Yes," Thalik replied. "But this one will not involve combat, speed, or pain. Today we test your ability to connect." Nathan blinked. "Connect? With who?" Thalik smiled. "With Princess Cyrexia." Trial of Unity was not held in a battlefield or test room. Instead, it took place in the Crystal Garden, a glowing sanctuary deep within the ship. Tall crystal trees shimmered with gentle light. Soft music floated in the air, made by wind passing through the crystals. It was peaceful, like a dream. Nathan entered slowly. In the center stood Cyrexia, wearing a flowing robe of blue and silver. She looked calm, but her eyes were serious. "Welcome," she said. Nathan stepped forward. "So what kind of trial?" "Is this?" "This," she replied, "is the trial that matters most. The trial of understanding. If we are to bond, we must know each other, trust each other, speak with open hearts." Nathan raised an eyebrow. "You mean we just talk?" She smiled gently. "Talk, listen, feel. You and I must complete a mental connection, a shared memory." Nathan frowned. "I've never done anything like that." "No human has," she said. "But I believe you can." They sat across from each other on a stone platform surrounded by glowing water. Between them floated a small crystal. "This is a unity crystal," Cyrexia explained. "It allows two minds to share one memory together, but only if both are open. If one resists, the connection breaks." Nathan nodded slowly. "And what memory are we sharing?" "That is for the crystal to choose." He took a deep breath. "All right, let's do it." They each placed one hand on the crystal. A soft hum filled the air, and then the world around them shifted. Suddenly, Nathan found himself standing in a dusty battlefield. Smoke curled into the air. The sound of gunfire echoed in the distance. But this wasn't Earth. It wasn't a human war. Beside him stood a younger Cyrexia, dressed in torn armor, holding a wounded child in her arms. "This is my memory," she said softly. Nathan looked around. Alien bodies, both soldiers and civilians, lay scattered. "This was during the final year of the war," she continued. "I led a mission to evacuate a village, but we were ambushed. Many died. I was not strong enough to save them all." Nathan watched as younger Cyrexia screamed for help. She shielded the child with her body. No one came. She had to fight alone. Suddenly, the memory shifted again. Now Nathan saw himself on Earth, in a ruined city. Bombs had fallen. Civilians hid in destroyed buildings. Nathan was there helping people escape. He carried a child with a broken leg, ignoring the danger around him. Cyrexia looked at the scene in silence. "I saw this footage during peace talks," she said. "That's when I first noticed you." Nathan didn't speak. Watching his past made his chest tighten. The unity crystal glowed brighter. Now the two memories mixed. Cyrexia and Nathan both standing in the same battlefield, surrounded by fire and fear, helping the helpless. Two different wars, two different lives, but one heart. The memory faded. Nathan and Cyrexia opened their eyes. They were back in the Crystal Garden. The light was softer now. The water around them glowed a calming blue. For a moment, they said nothing. Then Cyrexia spoke. "I understand you now, and I think you understand me." Nathan nodded slowly. "Yeah, I do." They sat quietly. There was no need to rush. Silence between them felt safe. Finally, Cyrexia stood and walked to a tall crystal wall. She placed her hand on it, and a soft tone echoed through the garden. Thalik's voice came through a hidden speaker. "The trial of unity has been completed." Nathan stood, still feeling the memory in his bones. "So, what now?" Cyrexia turned. "Now, the final trial begins tomorrow. But tonight, You are invited to join the royal circle for dinner. It is a sign of honor. Dinner with alien nobles. Nathan smirked. Sounds dangerous. Sirexia laughed. Less dangerous than General Vorthan, I promise. That evening, Nathan stood in front of a tall mirror, adjusting the traditional robe given to him by the Zarelians. It felt strange light, flowing and covered in symbols he couldn't read. Still, it looked formal. He wasn't sure if he liked it. But he didn't want to be rude. 2 guards arrived and led him through the glowing halls to the royal dining chamber inside. A long, curved table sat beneath a dome of crystal. Stars shone above through the glass. Alien dishes filled the table's strange fruits, glowing bread, floating water spheres. Nathan had no idea what half of it was. Sirexia sat at the head, her father the Zarelian king beside her. The king was tall and silent, wearing a golden robe that shimmered like firelight. All eyes turned to Nathan as he entered. He bowed slightly, remembering what Thalik had taught him. The king nodded slowly. Human Cole, you are welcome here. Nathan took his seat beside Sirexia. She leaned in and whispered, You're doing fine. Throughout the dinner, the Zarelian nobles asked Nathan questions, not just about war, but about Earth, music, oceans, food, and dreams. He answered honestly. He told them about sunsets and snowfall, forests and laughter, human hope and human fear. They listened, and slowly the tension in the room faded by the end of the night. Nathan realized something. He was no longer just a soldier on a mission. He was becoming a symbol of change, of trust, of unity, and maybe, just maybe, of something more. The next morning, the ship Varkurith was unusually quiet. The halls were dimmer. The usual hum of machines had slowed. Something had changed in the air, something serious. Sergeant Nathan Cole woke early, as always. He sat by the window in his room, watching stars move across the black sky. His mind was filled with thoughts of Sirexia, the trials, and the people he had met. But most of all, he was thinking about the final trial. Thalik arrived right on time. Good morning, the Zarelian guide said. His voice was calm, but there was a trace of worry behind his eyes. Nathan stood up. What's wrong? Thalik hesitated. Today is not just the last trial. It is also the day the king makes his final judgment. Nathan's heart skipped. You mean whether I'm allowed to bond with Sirexia? Yes, Thalik replied. The trials test your body, mind, and heart. But the king must still choose. If he refuses, the bond will not be allowed no matter what Sirexia or you want. Nathan was silent. He knew the bond was more than just a title. It meant unity between 2 worlds, between human and Zarelian. It meant peace. Let's get it done, Nathan finally said. The final trial took place in the Hall of Voices, a grand chamber filled with old memories. The walls were made of crystal, showing images of past leaders, battles, and great events. The floor was made of stone so smooth it shone like glass. The king sat on a high seat at the far end. Sirexia stood beside him. The room was full of nobles, warriors, scholars, and elders. Nathan stood in the center. Alone, a tall Zarelian elder stepped forward. The final trial is not one of action, he announced. It is one of truth. He turned to Nathan. You will be asked questions. You must answer with honesty. If your heart is not clear, the bond cannot form. Nathan nodded. I understand. The first elder spoke. Why do you want to bond with our princess? Nathan looked at Sirexia, then answered, because she's strong, kind, and honest. She fights for peace, not war. She sees beyond race and blood. I want to stand beside someone like that, second elder asked. Do you seek power, fame, or riches through this bond? No, Nathan said. I didn't ask to be chosen. But now that I've come this far, I want to protect what she believes in. A third elder leaned forward. If Earth were to go to war again with Zarelia, where would your loyalty lie? The room went silent. Nathan took a deep breath. With peace. Always with peace. If either side does wrong, I would stand against that wrong. I fight for what's right, not just for one flag. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some nobles looked upset, others looked impressed. The king raised his hand and the room became quiet again. Come forward, human Cole. Nathan stepped onto the circle before the throne. The king stood tall. His voice was strong, deep, and steady. You have passed all the trials. You have shown strength, wisdom, and heart. But this bond is more than personal. It is political. It will shape the future. Nathan nodded. I know. I have spoken with my council, the king said. Some still fear this path, others believe in it. He looked down at Nathan. But before I give my answer, I ask you one last question. Nathan straightened. Ask anything. The king's eyes glowed faintly. If you must give your life to protect Sirexia, would you do it, Tivin, if it means death far from Earth, forgotten by your people? Nathan didn't blink. Yes, he said. Because some things are worth more than safety. She is one of them. The king was silent for a long moment. Then he stepped down from the throne and placed his hand on Nathan's shoulder. Then by the power of the royal line and the will of the ancestors, I grant permission for the bond. Cheers and music filled the chamber. Sirexia smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in days. The nobles bowed in respect. Even General Vorthon gave a small nod. Talek let out a breath he had clearly been holding. Nathan stood still, surprised. After everything, it actually happened. He had earned the right to stand beside the Princess of Zorelia. Later that night, a small ceremony was held in the Starlight Hall, where bonds were honored by tradition. Sirexia wore a robe of glowing silver and blue, and Nathan wore a simple dark suit with Zorelian patterns across the chest. They stood beneath a dome of stars. A priest spoke ancient words. A small crystal between them glowed with soft white light. It meant balance, harmony. When the final words were spoken, Sirexia and Nathan each placed a hand on the crystal. A burst of light flowed around them. Warm and peaceful, they were now officially linked, not just in name but in soul. By ancient tradition, after the ceremony, Sirexia and Nathan stood alone by a wide window overlooking the galaxy. Still breathing, Sirexia teased gently. Barely. Nathan laughed. You Zorelians know how to make a guy sweat. She looked at him with soft eyes. I'm glad you didn't quit. Many would have walked away after the first trial. He looked back at her. Many aren't you? They stood quietly for a moment. The stars outside shone like tiny hopes across the endless sky. What happens now? Nathan asked. Now, Sirexia replied. Now we prepare. There are still those who don't believe in this bond, not just here, but across both worlds. Some may try to break it. Nathan's face became serious. Then we stand together. Sirexia smiled again. Yes, together. But far across the galaxy, in the shadows of an unmarked moon, a secret meeting took place. A group of cloaked figures watched a glowing screen that showed Nathan and Sirexia's bonding ceremony. They think peace is easy. One of them said. They forget what war is built, said another. We must act. Before the bond grows stronger, the screen flickered off, and the real danger was about to begin. 2 days had passed since the bonding ceremony between Sirexia and Nathan Cole. The stars still shined above the great ship Varkareth. But peace never lasts long in the galaxy. Nathan spent most of his time in training rooms, learning more about Zorelian technology, weapons, and culture. His new title, Royal Guardian, came with responsibility. He was no longer just a guest. He was now a symbol of unity between Earth and Zorelia. Sirexia, too, was busier than ever. Meetings, advisors, and messages from different parts of the galaxy filled her days. But whenever they had a quiet moment together, it was filled with laughter, questions, and soft understanding. Still, something felt wrong. It started with small things. A delay in communication from Earth. A coded message that never arrived. A security drone that went missing near the ship's edge. Then, one evening, Thalik came rushing into Nathan's training hall, his face pale. Something's wrong, he said. Very wrong. In the command center, Sirexia stood before a glowing screen. The king was there too, along with several generals and scientists. As Nathan and Thalek entered, everyone turned to them. Sirexia spoke quickly. 3 of our deep space beacons have gone dark. Nathan frowned. Beacons. They monitor the space between star systems, Thalek explained. They also protect trade routes and warn us of movement. The general tapped the screen, showing a star map. 3 red dots blinked, then vanished. No signal, no warning, no survivors, the general said grimly. It was fast, too fast. The king looked at Nathan. We believe someone is targeting our peace alliance. Your bond with my daughter may be the spark they fear. Nathan's jaw tightened. Who would do that? Thalek whispered. Not all Xerlians want peace, and not all humans do either. Silence filled the room. Then Sirexia stepped forward. We must investigate. We must do it carefully. If word spreads that our systems are being attacked, panic will follow. Nathan nodded. Where do we start? The king turned to them both. With a mission. 1 ship. A small team. Quietly, you must travel to the last beacon location.
Fine.
Out what happened, and return safely. Nathan grinned slightly. Dangerous I'm in, Sirexia smiled. So am I. Their ship was called the Sovereign Ember, small but fast, designed for exploration. With Thalek as pilot and a few trusted guards, the team left under cover of night. As the Varkareth faded behind them, Nathan looked back once, knowing this mission was more than discovery. It was a test of everything they had fought for. 3 days passed in quiet space travel. Stars drifted by like fireflies. The journey was smooth to smooth. Then they arrived at the last. Beacon's location, what they found chilled them. Floating in the dark was the broken frame of the beacon. Its center was burned, torn apart by energy weapons. Pieces drifted like shattered bones. No sign of who had done it. No signals, no warnings. Thalek scanned the wreckage. This wasn't pirates. This was military precision. Nathan looked closer at one piece of metal and froze. He picked it up and turned it around. Burned into the side was a symbol, a sword, crossing over 2 wings. Sirexia's eyes narrowed. That's not ours. Nathan's voice was low. No, that's Earth's Special Forces symbol. Back aboard the Sovereign Ember, the team gathered around the screen. It can't be humans, Thalek said. Your own people wouldn't attack a Xerelian beacon. Nathan shook his head. Special Forces are highly trained. They don't act without orders. But what if someone gave those orders? Sirexia asked quietly. Nathan looked at her. You mean someone on Earth? Trying to break the alliance? It's possible, she said. There are still many who don't trust Xerelians, just as some Xerelians don't trust humans. Lek's hands trembled slightly. If this is true, we're looking at a possible plot between worlds. Nathan clenched his fists. We need proof, and fast. Their search continued. They followed traces of energy through a nearby asteroid field. As they navigated carefully, Sirexia pointed toward something ahead. There do you see it? Small. Outpost, hidden behind asteroids. No lights, no signals. But alive, they approached silently. Thalek activated the stealth system, and the Sovereign Ember slid into the shadow of a nearby rock. From a distance, they saw ships docked at the base. Human and Xerelian designs both, working together, but not peacefully. Armed guards marched between the landing pads. Crates of weapons were being moved into the base. Secret meetings were being held under dim lights. Nathan zoomed in with his visor. What is this place? Sirexia whispered. Nathan's voice was cold. A joint rebel outpost. It's a secret force trying to destroy the peace. From both sides. Just then, an alarm blared on the ship. They had been spotted. Lasers fired. The asteroid shook. The Sovereign Ember dodged left, then right, as enemy fire filled the space around them. Thalek shouted, We need to escape now. Nathan and Sirexia ran to the back, holding onto the rails as the ship twisted guards from the outpost. Launched small fighters. The Sovereign Ember moved quickly, turning fire just enough to create a path. Nathan manned the defense turret, taking down 2 enemy crafts. But more were coming, Syrexia's voice came through the speaker. "We have to make a jump now." Thelic pushed the engines to full. A portal opened in front of them. Blue lights swirled as they rushed forward. Just as the enemy fired their strongest missile, Sovereign Ember vanished into hyperspace. They escaped, but they now knew the truth. Back on board, breathing hard, Nathan looked at Syrexia. "We found the enemy." "Yes," she said. "But now we must tell the galaxy." Thelic nodded. "And we must prepare, because war is not coming. It has already begun." The Sovereign Ember burst out of hyperspace and rushed towards Zorelia, top speed. The stars behind them faded. Ahead, the glowing blue planet waited, peaceful and unaware of the growing threat. Inside the ship, the mood was tense. Syrexia stood near the front screen, arms crossed. Nathan was beside her, quiet but ready. Thelic piloted with sharp focus. No one spoke for several minutes. Finally, Syrexia broke the silence. "We saw the truth. Secret force from both Earth and Zorelia working together. To destroy our peace." Nathan nodded. "They fear unity. They want war because war keeps them in power," Thelic added. "If we don't act now, they'll strike first. They might already be moving towards Zorelia or Earth." Syrexia turned to Nathan. "We need to speak to my father, but not in private. This truth must be shared in front of the council and the people." Nathan agreed. "The whole galaxy needs to know." When they arrived, the capital city welcomed them with celebration. News of their safe return had reached ahead, but the joy did not last. Syrexia called an emergency meeting of the High Council. The hall was filled with nobles, generals, scholars, and, for the first time, human ambassadors too. The king entered last. He looked calm, but concerned. He sensed something was wrong. Syrexia stepped forward and began to speak. "There is a threat to peace," she said. "Not from outside, but from within." The room went quiet. Nathan joined her at the center. "We found a hidden outpost. Human and Zorelian ships. Rebels working together. They destroyed our beacons. They plan to strike more." Gasps echoed. Around the hall, General Vorthan frowned. "Impossible. No Zorelian would work with human traitors." Nathan held up a small device, tapped a hand. A holoprojection appeared. It showed recordings from the outpost, secret meetings, weapon crates, and soldiers from both sides working together. Thelic played the sound clip. "We strike first, for the bond strengthens, before peace takes root." The king stood. The voice was deep. "Who leads this rebellion?" Syrexia answered. "We don't know yet, but they are powerful, hidden in high places. If we delay, they will move against us." The human ambassador stepped forward. "Earth must hear of this. 2. Our leaders will not accept traitors using our symbols." Nathan looked around. "This is not just a Zorelian problem, or a human problem. This is a problem of those who fear peace." The king looked at his daughter, then at Nathan. "You have brought us truth, and now we must decide what to do with it." That night, Syrexia and Nathan stood on the royal balcony. Below, them lights filled the city. The people were celebrating the bonding, but they had no idea how close war had come. "Do you think your people will believe us?" Nathan asked. "They will," Syrexia said softly. "Because truth always rises, even when shadows try to hide it." Nathan smiled. "Shh. You sound like a queen." Syrexia laughed. "Not yet." They stood side by side, hands touching gently. "I'm glad I came here," Nathan said. "Not just for duty, but for everything." She looked at him with warmth. "I'm glad I chose you." Just then, a messenger arrived with news. The king had called for a broadcast to the entire planet. Every citizen would hear the truth, and Earth had agreed to send a signal as well, allowing the message to be shared across both worlds. It would be a joint address, the first in history, the next day. The royal speech tower rose high above the clouds. Cameras floated silently. Millions waited to hear. The king stood first. "We are living in a time of change," he said. "We have chosen peace, but there are some who fear it. They wish to divide us once again." He paused, then stepped aside. Cyrexia stepped forward. "I stand here not just as a princess," she said, "but as someone who has seen both worlds, yours and his." She looked at Nathan and smiled. "We were told we are too different. Our bond is unnatural. But what is natural is understanding. What is powerful is unity." Nathan stepped up beside her. "I was born on Earth, raised to follow orders, taught to see aliens as a threat. But when I met Cyrexia, I saw more than that. I saw courage and hope and a reason to fight for something better. Together," they said, "we will not let fear win. We will stand as one." The people across Zerli and on Earth watched in silence. Then cheers broke out. Messages poured in, from cities, from villages, from space stations and colonies. People were ready for change, ready to protect peace. In the following days, investigations began. Traitors were discovered. Hidden groups were uncovered. Arrests were made. Both Earth and Zerelia sent patrol ships to guard shared borders and support one another. The outpost was destroyed. The rebel network was broken. The shadows had been pulled into the light. Weeks passed. The VAR. Kareth now flew with both Earth and Zerelian flags. A new treaty was signed, stronger than ever. Cyrexia and Nathan walked through the palace gardens, finally at peace. "So," Nathan said, smiling, "what happens now?" She turned to him, eyes shining. "Now we lead." He blinked. "Wait me? Lead?" She laughed. "Yes, my guardian. You stood by me when no one else did. The people trust you. I trust you." Nathan took a deep breath. "All right. If you're beside me, always." They looked up at the stars, where 1,000 stories waited, but their story one of courage. Choice and love had just begun. The end.